name is Keith Hodgson, Assistant Professor of Music Education at the University of the Arts and Director of Education for Zeswitz Music in Reading, Pennsylvania. This podcast is supported and distributed by Zeswitz Music as part of its commitment to music education and the professional development and support of all music educators. Our topic this episode is creative recruitment and retention, and my special guest is Barz from Northampton Area Middle School in Pennsylvania. Welcome, Connor. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Why don't we begin by sharing a little bit about yourself, your background, your teach, how long you've been teaching, and a little bit about your school district. Take it away.
Sure. So this is my 7th year teaching at Northampton Middle School. I actually went to Northampton Middle School and then high school. I graduated in 2011, went to Westchester, got my bachelor's in music ed in 2015 with a focus on French horn. And then actually, it's kind of funny, in April of my senior year of college, while I was student teaching out in Wilson West Lawn with Dave Cooper, I saw that my middle school that I had gone to had posted that they were going to be hiring a band director. I was like, I wonder if they'd hire somebody who hasn't yet graduated college. So I sent all my materials in and heard back from the superintendent, had an interviewed with my high school band director. He was in on the interview and got the second round interview, got the job offer. And I was hired 1 month before I graduated with my undergrad. So all my friends were like stressed about finding their first job out of college. I was like sitting high. By June, I was already ready to go. I had my music all picked for the next, so it was awesome. So not to brag, but that was just a fun little thing that I don't think a lot of people have the opportunity to have. And then I just recently graduated. I think it was 2020. Everything's weird with COVID, with my master's in wind conducting from Messiah University. Since then, I've picked up the conducting job as the conductor of the municipal band of Allentown. So I'm working with them on Monday nights. We do a series of concerts throughout the summer. I've taught with the Reading Buccaneers Drum and Bugle Corps. I've marched with the Reading Buccaneers Drum and Bugle Corps. I've marched and taught with the Skyliners Drum and Bugle Corps. I've been assistant band director, drill designer, all of that for Northampton High School. So, I mean, like anybody listening, I'm sure your list goes on and on the further down the resume you get. But to answer the short question, this is my 7th year teaching at Northampton.
Oh, that's great. Well, I love learning about new people, and I don't know if I've shared that with you. I also marched DCA. I marched with the Bushwhackers for 5 years, long ago, probably before you were born.
Possible. I was born 93, so I don't want to out you.
It was 87 to 91, but we won 3 of the years that I marched. So.
Oh wow! Congratulations.
Good years, and you're a horn player, so God's instrument. Fantastic.
Right? Yeah, that's what I try to tell people. Nobody understands.
Oh yes, they do. They're just really jealous. They had it to do all over again. Myself as well.
You pick horn. That's what I'm saying.
Well, listen. So we're here to talk about recruitment. So tell us about some of the recent recruiting challenges that you've experienced.
So I think one of the biggest things I've faced, and I've talked to JJ Sansoni as our high school band director here in Northampton, and we have this conversation daily because we literally call each other. I call him more than I call my wife. Like, we are on the phone constantly. And I think the thing that we come back to so much is the kids today have so many opportunities and so many activities to choose from and to spend their time on. And in talking to people who graduated, in the community and stuff, when I was in band, there were 180 kids in that band. And now it's so spread that there's only like 60 or whatever. What I think you lose perspective of is the kids have so many different options. I mean, we have an orchestra, we have a chorus, we have 2 show choirs, we have an honors orchestra, we have a musical. And that's just the performing arts in the Northampton Middle School. And then you add all the clubs and all the sports and all the intramural sports and all of this stuff. The kids have so many different ways to spend their time. I've noticed that a lot of my issues come from kids when I have the conversation, hey, why don't you do band? I saw you did band in 5th grade and you didn't in 6th grade. What's up with that? Well, I play this sport and I'm in this club and my sister dances, and so we don't have time. That has become like the core of why kids aren't in band, at least in my district. So, I mean, I always kind of take solace in that because it's like, oh, it's nothing I'm doing wrong. It's just that they have so many options. So that's kind of like the first thing I've noticed. And especially coming back from COVID, the kids are looking to do all kinds of things, which brings me to the second thing that I've noticed since COVID. just a general malaise and apathy of doing stuff. Like, hey, we have band after school today. You're going to be there? Maybe. And then like they will or will not show up. And there's really no follow through at home in a lot of cases. So just trying to pull kids back into the, okay, there's a world that you're going to participate in and you're going to do these activities. That's going to be kind of how you get through middle school. It's been tough to kind of come back from that. So I'd say those two things have been the biggest issues that I've faced specifically recently, coming back from COVID in terms of like retention. Recruitment wise, I think we're falling into the same kind of categories there of they have so many opportunities. And sorry, I'm like stream of consciousness dumping all of these
That's
things.
okay. No, it's okay. It's great. That's the best way to answer.
So in our community, especially, I'm not dumping on the Lehigh Valley in any way, shape, or form. We're very sports centric. And so these kids are starting wrestling when they're 3. They're starting T-ball when they're 3. And they're continuing that through middle school. And so when it comes to the time to sign up for band in 4th grade, it's like, well, that's going to take away from wrestling time. And you've been wrestling since you were 3. Are you really willing to do that? And in a lot of cases, in a lot of households, I think the answer ends up being no. And so these kids stick with the activities they've been doing longest, and they don't branch out and try new things, no matter how much we try and tell them, like, middle school is the time to explore and grow and try and change and stuff like that. They're really sticking to their guns because they know wrestling and they think they're going pro, which, you know, everybody's going get a you know, a Division I scholarship to all their sports that they're trying to play.
But isn't the, you know, and that's the problem everywhere, honestly, right? But isn't the problem that our message, it's not or sports, it's and music. You know, you can do both. Why does it have to be? Right?
That's my pitch to the kids coming into my program. What's nice is our bands kind of run their curricular, and so we rehearse during the school day. So the kids are like, "Well, I don't know if I can do band because I have baseball." I'm like, "Oh, really? Are you playing baseball 3rd period? Does your baseball team practice during the school day? Because I don't think they do. So you can do both." So that's really one of the pitches. So if you're somebody listening to this looking for a way to just like overhaul your program, one way, if at all possible, to get anything during the school day, that argument goes away completely. We're fighting that battle right now. It's not so much a battle. We have a new director of curriculum in place for us. And so we're re-entertaining the idea. We don't have lessons at the middle school. So I just have my full ensemble, 3 of the 6 days per cycle, and never do I meet them for lessons. So we're in conversations now. How do we get that added back into the school day, just to give us one extra thing with the kids to combat the everybody's busy after school? You know, you don't have to pick one or the other. You can do both. And here's how we're going to help you do that.
Wouldn't you also agree that we're probably not as good at our messaging as the sports groups are? You know, the community sports groups, they're really good about the advertising and the messaging and getting it. That's why everybody is doing it so early. And
100%, right? And they're kind of at an advantage because they're starting in 3rd grade. I know they're like the Suzuki Strings start in 3rd, or when they're 3 years old. I'm sorry, but like the band world, no one's putting a trumpet in a 3-year-old's hands, and for good reason. Like they ought not to be doing that. So they are at a bit of an advantage, and also they're in the public eye a lot more. You know, nobody in the community is coming into our band rooms and watching us rehearse. But you can go and park yourself on a folding chair and watch your kid practice baseball for 6 hours a week. And as a parent, I think you're making that connection then to your kid in practice. So again, if there's any way to open up your rehearsal doors to the community, that might be a great way. And that, I mean, that's me, that's the pot calling the kettle black. I need to do that. Like that would be a great thing for my program to reach out and say, hey, come watch it. We're going to rehearse on this Wednesday afternoon. Doors open, come watch us rehearse. It's not a concert. There's no applause. I don't have a program, but just come see what we do, like you do for your kids' baseball practices.
so, what's the most valuable tool in recruitment and retention in your arsenal?
To me, it's me. You know, and you know, for different people it might be different things, but for me, I have found that I feel like I am my most powerful recruitment tool. And this is the little spiel I give all of my 8th graders moving on to the high school when it comes time to choosing, are you going to do marching band or are you going to be a concert band only kid? My big pitch is there's 50 of you in the room, only and one of me, and only one of us has ever done high school marching band. and it's me. And I'm telling you, it is a great way to spend your time. So if you're going to listen to anybody, listen to me. Don't listen to your friends. They don't know anything about high school marching band. They've never done it. So to me, I am the most powerful recruitment tool. When I go down and visit elementary school kids, I make sure I am selling myself first, as he's somebody I want to spend 45 minutes a day with for the next 3 years. And that won't be a waste of my time. And then we talk about the program, and we talk about how we go to Hershey Park for a trip, and they all geek out over that. But I try and put myself in their eyes first, as he is worthy of my attention for 3 straight years. And something I kind of fell into this year as we were getting into March, one of our elementary band teachers was unable to finish the school year with us. So I volunteered myself and my time, because we all have so much of that, to go down and teach at 2 of our elementary schools. So I spend the first hour and a half of my day at the middle school, and I travel to 2 of our elementary schools and do lessons, and I'm doing the after school rehearsals down there. And that's going to go one of 2 ways. The kids who love me are absolutely going to stick with it. They get 8.5 weeks of FaceTime with me before they go away for the summer and have to decide if they're going to join me at the middle school. I guess now that I'm thinking about it, it could work to my disadvantage if they dislike me. If I'm like not a good personality match for them, they could say, "Hey, I'm not going to give this Barz guy a chance. We're out of here. We're gonna bail now." But I'm really trying to take advantage of that and show them, like, this is how we do things in the middle school. This is how things are with me. And so I kind of try and sell myself as the reason why you should stay in band. Your friends are all still going to be there. The trumpet is still going to be the trumpet. The clarinet still, if you like the clarinet, you'll love middle school, and then you get to spend it with me. So to answer the question, I'd say you are your most valuable recruitment tool. You and your students are the face of your program, and to put that in this kids' minds.
Connor, it's such a perfect answer, and what you're doing is building relationships. And when you build those positive relationships, that's the most important thing that any teacher can do. Right.
No matter what subject you're
Right.
teaching, you ask any teacher, how do you teach your content? It's your connections and your relationships first, and then the content delivers itself most of the time.
And in most districts, we find ourselves in our silos, right? Either at the high school or in our middle school or our particular elementary school. And the fact that you are already working with the high school marching band so much, you're such an integral part of that. And your focus is on feeding the high school and having those kids continue, and they get the chance to continue with you. That relationship continues for another 4 years. They don't have to leave you in 8th grade. And now that you're doing the same thing in the other direction, you're now setting you're setting your feeder up for yourself for next year in terms of filling in for these, building these relationships.
Right. And part of it comes down to time and how much time you're able to give. I was going to touch on this at some point here tonight, but one of the things I always make really obvious to my 8th graders going to 9th grade, we have some May marching band rehearsals. It's more of learn the exercise book, learn the super basics of marching technique and stuff. And it happens right after school on Tuesdays through May. And I always make it like a big party down in the band room. We all meet as soon as the last bell rings, all the kids going up to marching band. They're all nervous because they don't know where they're going. They don't know any of the high schoolers. So we have a little party in my band room, and then we kind of all walk our way up to the high school together and storm the high school band room kind of as a crew. And that makes them feel really comfortable. And it makes them see that oh, he wasn't lying. He is actually going to be there with us the whole step of the way. And just keeping that one comfort, that one consistent comfort factor from one place to another, it's huge for kids. So any FaceTime you can be in front of them is huge.
So I wanted to ask about the other direction. You go take them up there in the spring as 8th graders to the high school. How about the high school students? Do you have them coming down to the middle school and interacting with the middle school students?
I do. Yeah. Usually JJ brings a whole crew down, and we try and include seniors who have been in the program for a while, but also freshmen who have the most fresh perspective of this is what it was like to be in 9th grade, so that the 8th graders can look at them and go, oh, they're not that different from me. They haven't grown their beard yet, like some of the seniors end up doing. They're more.
And they remember them. They were only a year older than them. The freshmen, they know.
They were right there in the chair next to them last year, right? So yeah, we always bring those kids down and just talk. And it's always funny. JJ and I usually like just leave the kids to their own devices and we stand outside of the room and just whatever they talk about, kids are going to be kids and they probably have a good perspective to give the younger kids. This year, when they came down, JJ was at Region Band with our tuba player. So it was just me in the room with all these high schoolers and all these middle schoolers. And I just played Fly on the Wall and they are fascinating to listen to. Just like no leash, no restraints, just like what do the kids talk about? It's wild. So if you ever get a chance to like just listen to teenagers talk to each other, I highly encourage it.
That's great. How can directors recruit closer to their instrumentation that they would like to see in their group rather than having the students randomly select on their own?
So what instrument did you pick in 4th grade?
Actually, I'm kind of unique. I did not.
Okay.
I did not start in 4th grade.
Okay. So I've had this conversation. Usually when I ask people that question, they say, I picked this instrument in 4th grade. And my follow-up question is always, why did you pick that instrument? Never have I had a great answer of, I was drawn to the sonority of the clarinet. That's never a 4th grader's answer to anything. And so largely it's because it was shiny, because it had a lot of buttons, because the person demonstrating it at my safari made a really loud farting sound with the tuba, and that's what I wanted to play, right? Like it's all these stupid 9-year-old reasons to pick an instrument. And so JJ and I have always talked about like, why are we letting them pick the instrumentation, giving them some freedom to like, if they are like in tears against playing the trombone, don't stick a trombone in the kid's hand. But like, if they show any sort of aptitude to playing a brass instrument and you're low on trombones, give the kid a trombone. By the time they come back in the fall, if you're having a spring recruitment, it's unlikely they will remember their love for the trumpet if they show up and a trombone has their name on it in a seat with their name on it on day 1. I think so often we let the kids pick, like, I don't know, safaris I've been involved with, you get your 1st, 2nd, and 3rd choice and you go around and try all the instruments and whatever you show most aptitude on, that's what you get stuck on. Problem is, no offense to trombone players, it's a really easy instrument to pick up and make a sound on, right? And so the 4th graders all do that, and then you get a million kids on that instrument or clarinet or what have you. I think looking at it as an adult and kind of guiding that choice a little bit and knowing what seats you need to fill out in your group and knowing what instruments you want to see in your room the next year can help guide the kids on their journey to selecting instruments. I'm not saying like sabotage all of the trumpets for the kids you don't want to see play trumpet and give them one and the valves in backwards, like, oh, you can't make sound on that, you shouldn't play trumpet. But, kind of reinforcing the good where you want it to be seen. Break out your best clarinet for safari night, break out your best flute for safari night, and bring some of the trashier trumpets if you don't need so many of them. Just anything you can do to guide your way, because the kids don't have great reasons why they're picking instruments generally. If my older brother played the saxophone and I love him so much, okay, that I get that, that's fair, but generally they don't know.
So you mentioned instrument safaris. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about that. And I was wondering if you utilize maybe some of the high school students to do demonstrations for the 4th grade beginner nights.
We have tried, I can say this with somewhat confidence, we've tried every combination of instrument safari I think that any band anywhere has ever tried in the history of band safaris. Zeswitz, by the way, not a shameless plug here, has been, and also pardon the pun, hugely instrumental in having these safaris go successfully for us. Our rep, Tom Palakowski, has been awesome at schlepping instruments to safaris, setting them up, being a wealth of knowledge for parents in meetings for them also. But yeah, so we've done the kid demonstrating instruments thing during COVID. We had set up a whole like drive-through instrument safari where parents were going to be coming around and we were going to have kids at different stations demonstrate. Nobody was going to get out of their cars or anything, super COVID safe. Due to logistics on our campus, we weren't able to do that, but it was all planned out and it was a beautiful plan and it would have gone perfectly if we were allowed to do it. But all that stuff where you take over the cafeteria, set up 15 trumpets and you have kids, go around and try stuff, and the high schoolers are there to facilitate. I know one year I took my jazz band to the safari night and played for, the kids and the parents, and the high school took their jazz band and played, just to give a progression of like, your kid's going to start playing this instrument and it's going to sound terrible, but very soon it's going to sound a lot less terrible. And they're going to be in jazz band, and they're going to be in all these select groups and making sounds that resemble what a tenor saxophone should sound like. And giving that whole picture of the music ed process in our district, rather than just, you're going to start this instrument and it's going to be terrifying, and you're going to have practice logs and it's going to be scary and a tough process, giving them that whole picture.
So do the middle school and high school kids that when they're involved in the safari nights, you have any issues getting them to be involved, or do they love being involved? Is that something
They
they really
love
into?
it.
Yeah,
They
that's
love
great.
it. The kids do anything you ask them to, anything from like showing up to play, but then like, hey, we have all these chairs set up, can you actually put them all the way over there? They love doing stuff like that. At least in our district, it's fun, and band kids are pretty much the same everywhere, so they love that.
Do you have a Triumph Music Honor Society at your high school? Do
We
they?
do not.
Okay. So that,
No.
oftentimes that's also a good way to log, service hours for Triumph Music Honor Society.
That's true. What we do, the high school marching band, if you are interested in a leadership position as a student, there are service hours that JJ asked them to complete, or a service project. And it's been everything from like organizing the music library to cataloging all the uniforms, and something like that definitely counts and helps work through that. We did just start, I'm just remembering this, we started a band buddies program this year. Every Wednesday we rotate through. Wednesday 1 is woodwinds, and so any of my woodwind middle schoolers who want to stay after school for about an hour, I have a bunch of high school kids come down and basically just give them a small group lesson. I have a flute player teach the flutes. The high school kids love it, the middle school kids love it, and what they don't know is they're working on all the marching band warm-ups that they're going to be playing next year in the high school, so it kind of gives them a foot in the door at that. Then we rotate through. The next week is wood, brass, and then percussion, and then it restarts. And the high school kids love it, the middle school kids love it.
Great. It's a mentor program. That's great.
That's basically what we're running. Yeah.
And they're also building relationships with high schoolers already to make it a little bit more comfortable to make that transition. That's great. Thanks for sharing all that. So, how do the relationships that you have with different level band directors in your district impact the recruitment and retention efforts vertically?
I think it's huge, man. I mean, I know, like I said, time is of the essence for all of us. That's like the most valued commodity, I think, in everyone's life. The more face time you can have at the different levels, the more accessible you are at the different levels, the more you will see those kids also travel to those different levels, because they like to see you as the elementary band. When our elementary band teachers like wander through our marching band practice in the fall, the kids lose their minds. They love to see them. Mr. Bear, I'm still out here playing trumpet. They love that and all that stuff. So the more accessible you are at all levels, I think really helps the kids see that this is a whole process, and they want to see us through this whole process. I think from the kids' perspective. One quick story that I had starting at one of our elementary schools last week, I had a group of trumpet players come in, and unbeknownst to me, this was over their recess time that I had pulled them from a lesson, but I did not know this. So one kid comes in wearing his coat, and he comes in and he goes, "I'm quitting band." First thing he ever said to me, not hi, nothing like that, just, "I'm quitting band." I was like, interesting. I'm not going to listen to a 10-year-old and have him tell me that. I'm going to need like your adult to say that. Get to the root of the problem. I pulled him from recess and he wasn't happy about it. And I was like, well, you know what? Why don't you just sit? I can't send you just out the doors by yourself. So you're going to stay here for the lesson anyway. You forgot your trumpet, whatever. I don't really care. Sit and just observe. By the end of the lesson, he was like, "I love band. You're so funny. I'm going to come back next week." Totally not quitting band. So just even that like 20-minute little interaction is enough to like pull the kid from the brink of being gone forever back into the buy-in. Now, I don't know how much of that is blowing smoke, and maybe he's going to quit next week, but I got him for this week, and I got a trumpet for him to play at his lesson tomorrow. So, the odds are better, I'd say. So being accessible is huge.
Great, nice story. What advice do you have for our listeners for reaching out to the lost students of COVID?
You just said it. Reach out. The worst answer is going to be no. If you lost a kid because they disappeared through the e-learning process, or they actively quit because they didn't like band, if it was all online or with the masks or socially distanced or whatever, reach out. anyway. Send an email, send a video out to the parents. I'm sure most listeners probably still have contact information, or if you're at the middle school level, the elementary teachers have that contact information still. Reach out to them, get that contact information, send that email. One thing that I do is I send a little postcard to all of my kids. I wonder if I have any sitting. I do actually have them right here. It's really, really easy. I had them made up on Vistaprint. I don't know how well they're going to show up here. I have a couple pictures of my groups performing. I have our Twitter handle, our Instagram handle, and then the back is just a little bit of information about the program, how you can contact me and things like that. I think I had like 600 of these made for $15. Our school will pay for the postage, and then I write a little personalized note to each kid on the back in the blank space. Dear so-and-so, so excited for you to start band at the middle school next year. We're gonna have a great year. If you send that out to all the kids who quit, I bet you get 2 or 3 who come back because they got that little tangible thing that I have had kids who end up in the high school who's like, I still have your postcard hanging in my room on my bulletin board. I'm like, that's really nerdy, but thanks so much. Like, it's just one of those things that they get, and they don't get mail, right? Everything's electronic. So to get that in their mailbox, I think is huge. So I'd say reach out. The worst they can say is no. Something else I'm looking to do next year is offer a re-beginner class for kids who might have started in 4th grade, quit going into 5th grade, didn't do it in 6th grade, will be coming into 7th grade, and who I could maybe pull back into the group. Let's get you started again. Let's get you book 1 in the method book. We'll breeze through it because I'm sure you'll pick it all back up real quick, and then you'll be back and you can just rejoin band when you're ready. Anything, even if that's an hour after school that you can offer a group like that, anything you can do to get those kids back in the door, I think is going to be huge for rebuilding those numbers in the program.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you shared your card. I had heard about that, and glad you remembered to show that before we finished this interview. As you were talking, I was wondering about any outreach that you might continue to do with your former students who did not stay in band going into high school, but who are still walking around the halls of the high school. They know you. Is there a possibility of sending an outreach or card to them? Because you probably have their addresses and contact information.
Oh, for sure. I shamelessly reach out to any child I still have contact information to. And I have gone as far as to send names and like gradebook photos that are accessible on our gradebook to JJ, so he can like pick them out walking down the hallway. Like, hey, you used to be in band. What happened? So he has that like almost physical. I mean, he's a short guy, but like that physical intimidation of, oh, he's standing in front of me. Maybe we should talk about band. So we have that crossover of kids who like, I have like hand selected of, you want this kid back. Like, that kid played a mean tenor saxophone. I don't know why he quit, but you should go back and like find him specifically.
How about anything summer wise? What you were talking about, having a kind of a beginning middle school type of group. Any thoughts on doing anything in the summer to capture some of the lost students of COVID?
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, it goes back to everything I've said. The more FaceTime you have with the kids, the better chance you have of, 1, getting them back in the door, and 2, keeping them in the door. And so if you have the ability to run a summer program in your district, it's never going to hurt, We've talked about running one here in the past. I think we were going to do it summer of 2020. But then the world closed on March 13th of 2020, and we never got back to that. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to have to, that might be the phone call home to JJ as I'm headed home.
Yeah. This would be the summer to do it, right?
For sure. Yeah. If you have the facilities, or, the kids aren't all going to Cancun on vacation or whatever, I think it's only going to help. And, that it would be another great way to get the high schoolers involved at the middle levels, or the elementary levels, to help facilitate some of that, do some breakout sectionals during, and then run a concert, or a little show and tell for parents. It doesn't have to be anything too huge. I think anything, like I said, to get them in the door will only help.
Well, maybe mention it to Tom P as well, because Zeswitz might be able to help with some summer ideas. I know
I am sure you will be able to.
Well, listen, Connor, I'm so happy to talk with you this evening, and really enjoyed our conversation. Thanks for all you've shared with everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. It's always an honor. Appreciate you.
And I personally want to thank you for what you do for all of your students each and every day. It's fantastic. To all of my music educator friends, please continue to find opportunities to open more doors for all students to engage with music and with you. Thank you to Zeswitz Music and CEO Randy Shayler for your continued support for music education and music educators. Thank you. We'll see you on the next episode. Good night.